Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, fiends of all ages, welcome back. I am Anarchy Ass. We are back in Riverside, Illinois today in a very hidden spot, even though it's right close to the center of town and is right under everyone's noses. I am talking about the infamous Bourbon Spring. What is the Bourbon Spring? Well, it is a well that has been capped, and it has historical significance. It is the meeting place, if you will, of three historical events, all of which take place in separate periods of time, but the most significant and the event that gives it its name is the visiting of this well by a one Mr. Daniel Webster. Who was Daniel Webster? Well, he was not the author of the dictionary, as many locals will tell you. Many locals will tell you that the author of Webster's dictionary came to this location, drank bourbon out of this well that was filled with bourbon. How it got filled with bourbon varies depending on who you talk to. Some people will tell you that he brought the bourbon. Others will tell you that it's intoxicated by some sort of bizarre chemical in the water. Still others will tell you more correctly that local drunks, party boys, fanboys, if you will, were happy that Webster was here and brought the bourbon and dumped it into the well. That is actually what happened, but it was not Noah Webster who was the author of Webster's dictionary. It was Daniel Webster, who, believe it or not, was a bigger deal. He's kind of forgotten about now, but he was, in his day, a superstar hotshot lawyer. He was the equivalent of Johnny Cochran or F. Lee Bailey, or maybe even Clarence Darrow in his day. But even bigger than that, Daniel Webster served as Secretary of State and was a major statesman of his time. When he arrived here in Riverside in the 1830s, it was a big deal, and people brought out barrels of bourbon and dumped them into this local well and held a picnic. Picnicking was a huge pastime in the Victorian era, and they held a picnic in his honor. Yes, he did come here. Yes, he drank bourbon out of the ground, out of this well, and got completely intoxicated, and then got back on the train and left. That is the historic fact. But it was Daniel Webster, not Noah Webster, who did that. The well itself, which I'm going to go to now, lies at the bottom of a winding stairway that looks ancient, but contrary to popular belief, it was not present at the time that Webster came here. It was made later in the 1930s, specifically in 1939, as is indicated here on the edge. I don't know if you can see that. The lighting's not very good. This stairway is completely grown over. You can see the heavy foliage. The street is behind me, and this leads to the center of town. We're at Berry Point Road, and there's another cross section here. I can see that. But if you ever want to come here, it's at the Snow Hill, affectionately known as Seven Hills. The area is known as Swan Pond, even though there's no water here. Many years ago, we're talking over a century, it was in a small pond connected to the plains, and that gave it its name. But we were going to walk down this winding and really eerie stairway. It is poured concrete with blocks of stone set into the concrete. Down this hill, let's take a walk down here now. I'll let you see that. you're going to visit this in real life, be careful. There is poison ivy here, and I came here late at night with a certain someone who I was impressing with the look and creepiness of the place, and she accidentally got a rash from the poison ivy. So I do want to offer that disclaimer. It goes down a long way, and the stairs are uneven. These are not standardized. They are not even the same size as each other. So if you're going to come here in the dark, be careful. It's unlit, and there are mosquitoes. So moving along. Okay. There are a lot of mosquitoes. All right, we are at the base of the stairs. This is what it looks like. And it's not even evident that anything's down here. I'm amazed at how nobody really seems to know about this other than locals. And even they tend to get the story wrong. A lot of them think that the author of the dictionary came here. All right, and it looks like it might actually be, yes, here we go. Here is the capped well that Daniel Webster drank bourbon from. The mosquitoes are actually climbing onto my camera. There's a plaque here. It's got 3 events. July 1832 is when General Winfield Scott arrived. He, of course, was in the Black Hawk War, en route to the Black Hawk War, and stopped and camped here. In 1834, Jean-Baptiste Bourbon was here. He was, of course, first colonel, and then 1837, documenting the arrival of Daniel Webster. Folks, I am getting absolutely attacked. I hope these mosquitoes don't turn into vampires. But you saw where this is located, and the woods are fast reclaiming it. So you might want to view this within the next year or so, before it just gets completely overgrown, which is a shame. This is a major historical marker. I don't know of anything else that that is as cool as this in this area, that is documented with a physical marker of this shape. You can see how big this well is too. This is a big cap. It's 4 stones that have capped the top of it. It's not just a monument to it, it's the actual spring. All right, to avoid going back up that stair, I'm going to take another walk over here, get away from these mosquitoes. It is 92 degrees in Riverside today. Luckily, I am completely clad in black leather, but at least now we're a little bit away from the bugs. I apologize for the weirdo lighting. It gets really dark back in there, and then when you step out here into the bright summer sun, it's a contrast that my camera can't quite take in. But I do want to give you an indicator of the surrounding area. This is the sled hill, affectionately known as 7 Hills. Goes up that way. In the back is this expanse of land, and there was actually a pond in this area in the 1800s known as Swan Pond, which this is all called Swan Pond. This is the area where General Winfield Scott, who was a general in the Black Hawk War, camped, and his men stayed here. He was mentioned in an earlier broadcast that I did on the Potawatomi Indian Burial Ground, where because he was pursuing Black Hawks and some of them died and were buried in that area, people think that that is a Black Hawk Indian burial ground, which it's not. A fun side note on that event: after General Winfield Scott left here en route to the Black Hawk War, the war quickly ended, and he was present for the treaty that ended the war, and it was signed at the Bad Axe River. I'm not making this up. If you Google a Black Hawk War treaty or Bad Axe River, you'll see that this is historic fact. It's spelled B-A-D-A-X-E. So those were some bad axe Indians. I apologize again for the lighting. we're going to exit the area now, but I did want to return to Riverside for this, and I'll be returning here again when I visit one of the most requested spots in Riverside that a number of viewers of this show have wanted to see. And I'm glad that people still remember it. I am going to view, and so will you if you join me, the T-Ball Slaughter Park. Yes, the site of the very little known now 1980s T-Ball massacre that is part of this town's history. It's not something that's mentioned by realtors when people buy homes here, but I know it happened, and so will you. So until next time, I'm Anarchy Ass. Don't nobody go nowhere.